It's funny how billionaires are like, oh, just get by with less.
Just out of curiosity, is anybody working a job that they actually like?
Yo, I'm never gonna own a house. I just accepted it.
Right now, we are experiencing something called the Great Millennial Housing Freeze.
Well, I can't afford my house anymore.
I'm sorry, but America's billionaire problem is not normal.
Why would I try to save for a home or children right now?
Corporate America is not even trying to hide how shitty they are at this point.
It's funny how billionaires are like, oh, just get by with less. Don't spend $27 on lunch. Inflation's good for the economy, but would literally destroy the world before they paid taxes.
Young adults are giving up on ever owning a home, and that's because they're way too expensive. How is anyone supposed to start a life when the average age of first-time homebuyers is in the 40s? Many people are burnt out all the time, and many are fed up with the system that's currently in place. Let's look at these videos and let me know your thoughts. We are all burnt out.
I have roughly 5,000 liquid dollars, and I just figured something out. That's enough for like a down payment on something. I just got to figure out what.
Just out of curiosity, is anybody working a job that they actually like? I'm just curious because I feel like I've heard more people complain in the last year about hating a job or wanting to leave a job, and it's like, damn, like why does everybody feel that way? So I'm just curious, like anybody actually working a job that they like doing?
What the? You're fucking kidding me.
I absolutely love that guy's reaction to finding out that those tiny homes in San Antonio cost $100,000. Honestly, you can't get anything in St. Augustine, Florida for $100,000, like literally nothing. This house right here is about a mile from downtown. It's 660 square feet, so it's the same size as those tiny homes, and it's $450,000. It's also in a 9 out of 10 flood zone. So if you thought that was bad, check out the next one. This one is 950 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath, $575,000. I don't know. This real estate market is unhinged. So if anyone wants to build those $100,000 tiny homes in St. Aug, I will buy one.
Yo, I'm never gonna own a house. I just accepted it. It is what it is. I'm not gonna have a home. I was back in New York talking to my pops. I said, yo, Pop, how much you pay for the house we grew up in Brooklyn? He bought the house in 96. And it's a decent house. It's not really big, it's whatever. It's like a middle class, like 2-story, you know what I'm saying, whatever. House was $150K. Crazy, right? Now, here's the next part. I said, yo, how much you had to put down for the 150? They had a deal for like first-time homeowners in New York City in the 90s. 3% is what you had to put down. I'm like, trying to do the math. He just stopped me. He said, yo, $4,500. This man paid $4,500 for an entire home in 1996. Like, yeah, I'm not going to own a home. Like, what? If that was happening, so my pops at 31 and me at 31, he not going band for band with me. You know what I'm saying? He can't see me, but he got a house though. And I tell you this, I'm never gonna have that. It's not gonna happen.
Our owners will call me and say they lost a good guy, and I said, well, what happened? They're going through it, and they said, well, he got $2 or $3 more an hour, and I'm like, shut up. Like, people don't leave for $2 or $3 more an hour. Like, you know, if they work 40 hours a week, $2 more an hour is $80. Well, nowadays, $80 doesn't even buy your groceries. And so they're not leaving the job for $80. They're leaving the job because they don't feel appreciated, or because you overwork them, or because the tools are always broke, or because everyone that they work with sucks. So then when someone comes around and says, hey, I'll give you $80 more a week if you come work for me, they'll go like, yeah, I'll do that. That's the truth. I don't believe that the vast majority of people will leave for $2 more an hour.
Who can afford to buy these homes now? Because when I bought my home, it was 4x cheaper, 12 years ago. He's like, let me tell you something. Every single person I've shown that house to is getting money from their parents. Every single one. He goes, there's not one person that's looking at that house that's not getting help. So it's just like, it's become like a norm.
I sold my house recently, actually. in LA. It was the same situation. There were multiple offers on it, but all were receiving assistance from their parents. And their parents wanted to give their kids either a leg up or, big milestone events. The kids are getting married, something like this. And here's a house. And I think that's going to be a lot more common for parents to pay for a house than education. Like, instead of going to college, let me help you out with the down payment for a house. And now you got a place to live.
I totally agree. I think this is going to get so much worse, and it's going to create a huge cultural issue with the haves and have-nots.
My budget for the home is $100,000, but I would prefer to stay around the $90,000 mark if I could.
Priced at just under $70,000, the first home has just under 1,000 square feet. The second home is a recently renovated two-story priced at just under $95,000. The third home is the largest and most expensive at $130,000.
All right, so do you think you know which one you're going with?
You know what? I think I do. There are so many great features in that house, and I really think it's so move-in ready. I could move into it tomorrow and be happy with what's there.
Why would I try to save for a home or children right now? Am I going to be looking at my life when I'm like 50 or 60, finally purchasing my first home and thinking that it was worth spending all of my 20s having almost zero fun to save every dollar I have to buy this home? Am I going to look around at the wooden box around me and think that it was worth having zero life experiences because all I had to do was save money for this house? No. And I don't think most other people think that way either. Especially when I'm still going to be paying a mortgage that's basically the same as paying rent anyway. Oh, but it's an asset that'll increase in value over time. Increase in value over the 20 years left I have in my fucking lifespan? Like, no, I think I'm going to drink this coffee and this beer and enjoy a concert with my friends or something with the little time I have left.
40,355 homes were foreclosed on in the United States in May 2026. That is a 14% increase in home foreclosures in May 2026, higher than May 2025. There has been about 210,000 home foreclosures this year in January through May so far. People are having a problem paying their mortgage. They're having a problem paying their student loans, their auto loans, their credit cards. People are struggling. Inflation has gone from 2.9% to 4.2% and rising. Gas is at a 3-year high. Oil increased as much as 80%. Today is day 113 of the U.S.-Iran war. No, it is not open. And we are paying $1 billion per day to $2 billion per day. That is money we will never get back. It's not going into the U.S. economy. It's not going into infrastructure, education, any kind of social programs. It's gone. We're never getting it back. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get much worse. I just did a post about unemployment. Check that out and see what state you are in and if you are above the average unemployment rate of 4.3%.
I'm sorry, but America's billionaire problem is not normal. You might see Elon and all these other really rich guys and just assume that this absurd wealth inequality is just a byproduct of America getting rich. I'm here to tell you that that's not what it is at all. I mean, just take a look at this chart that I made. This is every developed country graphed on the y-axis by how wealthy they are and graphed on the x-axis by how wealth unequal they are. In other words, all of the pretty equal countries will show up on the left and the unequal countries will show up on the right. For example, here's China. Now, I haven't plotted the United States yet, but I just want you to try and figure out where it's gonna land. If you guessed all the way over here, then you'd be right. Even among rich countries, America still stands out as extremely wealth unequal, showing that just being rich isn't the cause of any of this. And it wasn't always like this. In fact, the 13 colonies were the most income equal country of anywhere in the measurable world. So like Europe, for example. So where do you guys think it all went wrong?
Right now, we are experiencing something called the Great Millennial Housing Freeze, where we have two distinct group of millennials that can no longer afford the homes that they anticipated. Let me show you what's going on here. So we've got group number one, the younger millennials like myself and my wife. We're looking for starter homes that are just like this, a 1,600 square foot house that we can start a family in. And we can build equity in this so that we can take that equity and move on to the next home. But then homes like this are selling for $425,000 when we were anticipating something between $150,000 and $300,000. Because when we entered the workforce, that's what these homes were selling for. This exact home sold for $174,000. In today's money, that should only be about $200,000, $215,000. So that's younger millennials. But then we have the older millennials who are in their mid-40s now. They've had a home for between 10 and 20 years, and they built a lot of equity, and they've saved a lot of money through their years of work. So now they start planning for something much bigger, a 3,700 square foot house that they could raise multiple kids in, or it can even be multi-generational. But then this home goes and sells for $690,000. And the older millennials were planning on spending between $300,000 and $500,000. Because when they started planning for something like this exact home sold for $350,000, meaning that in today's money, it sold for between $400,000 and $450,000. Thus, we have the great millennial housing freeze. Younger millennials are choosing not to enter the housing market because they simply can't afford it, and they're going to take that money and travel and just have some fun. While older millennials have the cheapest housing that they could possibly have because they bought their house cheap and they have extremely low interest rates. So they're never moving, because if they sold their home, they're going to have to buy a whole bunch more house and have a higher interest rate. So we were sold this dream by older generations who have literally screwed us. What they once did because of policies that they've made in the past 6 to 7 years, we can no longer afford what they did. So we're just saying, screw it. We're just not going to do it. Let me know what your thoughts are and tell me if you've experienced anything like this.
Well, I can't afford my house anymore. Not because I lost a job. I actually got a raise. My mortgage just went up by a lot. So they say, buy what you can afford, live within your means. So I did. A couple years ago, me and a woman I was engaged to, we bought a house together. It was our first time in our 40s. So we bought the house in a small town. I drive 40 miles or 45 miles each way to go to work in a bigger town where I can make the most amount of money. And I live in a small town, so I can afford the house. It's a nice house. I love my house. It's beautiful. Over 2,000 square feet. It's great. When I first purchased this house, it was $169,000. And with all of the insurance and stuff added in, my monthly payment was $1,450 a month. And that was good. And with me and her both working, combined income of like maybe $130K, we could do it. And then we split up. She moved out. Bad decision. I'm an idiot. I don't know. That's a whole nother story. But then my mortgage goes up, and they say, oh, the cost of lumber, the cost of materials have gone up. So in case anything happens to your house, we'd have to rebuild it. So the insurance has gone up. And then the value of the property went up. So my payment went from $1,450 to $1,740. And I was upset about this because my car insurance went up, like doubled. And why? Because I drive 45 miles each way to get to work. And they said, it's because you drive it so much. I was like, but you have my home insurance. Like, I bought this car specifically for the good gas mileage. And you knew that from the start, that I said, I'm going to be driving 100 miles a day. That's why I'm buying this car. And so before I bought the car, I quoted the insurance price on it. So a year goes by, my mortgage goes up. My car insurance goes up. So I have to tighten my belt. I got to do supplemental income. I'm a musician, so I just play more music, do more gigs, and pay it. So from $1,450 to $1,740, I'm making it happen. I get a call yesterday. They're like, hey, you need to pay. And I'm like, all right, I get it. I fell behind. December kicked my ass with Christmas, and so I didn't make a full payment. I was like, all right, well, let me get caught up. Let me check my account. And then I asked, like, okay, what's the balance? And they told me a balance. And I was like, excuse me, there's what? And so they told me that my mortgage is now $2,500 a month. 2 years ago, I moved into this house. This town is about 12,000 people. It's a small town. Now, granted, it's a nice house, but it's no fucking mansion. It's not 2-story. I don't have a garage. I don't even have a carport. My backyard is barely fenced in. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So it went from $1,450 to now $2,500. Because apparently my house is now valued at $310,000 when I purchased it for $169,000. What the fuck? What's going on? Why? I was doing the right things. I make sure I get a job where I can make the most amount of money for what I can do. Look, I work for a good company. I do well. Like, for a high school dropout, I bought a new car, but it's a fucking Nissan. It's not like I didn't go crazy with a Mercedes or something. So I don't know. Who's at fault here? What did I do wrong? I've been working the same career for 10 years. I make decent money. I have a roommate. I have a fucking roommate who pays me like $600 a month just to rent a room from me. I mean, I guess I can try to make the $2,500 a month payment, but then what's going to be next year? Is it going to be $3,500 next year? What am I going to do?
I had an insane conversation with a recruiter today, and since I can't stop thinking about it, I'm just going to talk about it. I'm a freelance graphic and web designer and content marketer. I went to school for this stuff. I've been doing this as my bread and butter outside of content creation and UGC and acting. This is what I've been doing. This is how I make money, okay? So I had a recruiter slide into my DMs on LinkedIn, and she was really persistent to the point where, like, she just kind of wore me down, and I was like, well, I might as well just send her my resume and see what happens, because she seemed to think I was a really good fit for this role. So I send her my resume. She sends me the job description, where she left out the company name, the pay, the time requirement, and if it's an in-person, remote, or hybrid role. I should have taken this all as a red flag, but I am trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I jump on the phone with her today, and as soon as she pulls up my resume, I can hear, smell, taste, and touch the disdain that she has for me being a freelancer. She is throwing so much shade, I thought there was an eclipse outside, okay? And she goes on to say, you know, freelancers don't really like in-person, in-house roles, and that's what this is, and that's what the company really wants. Is this something you would be open to? And I'm like, with the right opportunity, yes, I would be open to a position like that. Okay, so in the job description, one of the key responsibilities is you have to update and refresh the website content. And before I called her, I was able to figure out what company was hiring. And this company's website, and she confirmed that I was looking at the right company, the homepage has like one picture on it. There's nothing to scroll down to. There's not a shop page. There's not an event page. There's no blog. So I wasn't really sure how this was a key responsibility, and yet there's nothing to update. And I asked her, can you shed more light on this? Do you have any other insight? And she's like, well, they're not looking for somebody to revamp their website. As if to say, I caught you trying to poach a client into your freelance cult, and it's not going to happen. Not in my house. No. And I'm like, all right. Then the conversation switches to pay. And she said, how much do you expect to be paying a role like this? I'm like, well, hourly right now as a freelancer, this is how much I make. And she said, well, it's a salary job. And I'm like, okay, how much are they offering? How much do you want? How much are they offering? How much do you want? And my boyfriend's in sales, so I know the first person who says a number in this situation loses, but I can't take the ping-ponging back and forth because I have other things to do. So I just turned around and I was like $100,000. And she scoffs. She's like, you're not going to get that in a design role, not for an in-house one. That's people hire out for that. And I'm like, you don't say. Perhaps that's why I freelance. So she tells me that it's a $65,000 a year role. And I was like, that's really low considering I have a degree in this and expertise and the area that I live in. And I say to her, well, what's the opportunity for growth here? And she says verbatim, well, you're not going to climb the corporate ladder. Your responsibilities will change, but your title won't. Not dreaming. Okay. Will my pay change? Conversation switches. Now we're talking about what they expect from a design perspective. She's like, they don't want anybody who does illustration or abstract art. They want somebody who does refined, elegant design. Is that something that you can do? And I was like, wait a second. You found me on LinkedIn, messaged me multiple times, never bothered to look at my profile or my website or my portfolio or click any of the links on my, you're asking me? And I was like, yeah, I could do that, because thankfully I'm not an illustrator or abstract artist, which you would have wasted your and the other person's time on doing this with. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I would actually appreciate if we can just move me on to the internal team, because there's a lot of questions here that I think like they might be better to answer. And she's like, well, you can't ask these kinds of questions in the interview, referring to what I said about growth and payment and job description. And then she gives me a full-blown lecture on how to interview. And I'm like, Nancy, fake name, I know how to interview. This isn't a coaching call. Thank you for your insight, but I can handle the interview, right? And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to forward your stuff. And if they like you, you're going to get a call from the HR department who's going to interview. And then you're going to interview with a different team. And then you're going to interview with the design team who's going to task you with a test project, which then you have to come in and present. All of that would be for free. I wouldn't be paid for any of that. For a $65,000 a year job. Corporate America is not even trying to hide how shitty they are at this point.
I need to have a vent session for a second about the state of affairs in this country. So I have two adult children. One is 18 going on 19 and the other one is 21. My 18-year-old is working currently as an HVAC apprentice and working on getting certified, but he is making $16 an hour, which I live in a like small to mid-sized Missouri town, so that's pretty typical around here. Wages are, low compared to a lot of places, but so is the cost of living. But he would also not like to be living at home with mom forever. He's more of like an independent, autonomous person, so apartment living is not for him at all. He wants a place where he can have his truck and his dirt bikes and be able to work on motors and have the freedom to do what he wants with the place and also be able to have all of his stuff. And at this point, honestly, renting a house would cost more than a mortgage payment anyway, but he's been looking for houses and just trying to figure out what he can afford and what he can do. And like he found this place that was only $125,000, which is like dirt cheap around here. Like that just doesn't exist anymore, but it had no basement. It was on like a slab foundation, I think, and probably needed some work, which he is naturally talented at that stuff. Like he works in HVAC. He's very mechanically inclined. Like he can do this stuff. So he's not afraid of a fixer-upper. Found out that the main reason it was priced so cheap is because it was in a flood zone. So it was a no anyway. But keep in mind, $125,000 house in this economy. And when we looked up to see like if he did like a 5% down payment on this thing with, your insurance and PMI and taxes and everything, his payment would still be $1,100 a month for a like cheap piece of crap house. And just the look of absolute dread on his face when he realized how completely unaffordable and unattainable it is for him to be able to buy a house and live on his own. Now, my oldest son just turned 21. He's been waiting to turn 21 because he wants to get into the cannabis industry. And it's just like the alcohol industry where if you want to be like a brewer or a bartender, you have to be 21 in order to do it. So this past week, Thursday, he interviewed for a job with a grower. And just a couple of days ago, he was offered the position and officially accepted it. And in that time, less than a week, we decided to start a war with Iran. And so when he interviewed for the job, gas prices were around $2.50 a gallon where I'm at, and now they are already at $3 a gallon and climbing. So just in the time between when he interviewed for this job and when he accepted this job, gas prices have gone up 50 cents a gallon, and they're not done climbing yet. And this is an issue because this job, there's a lot of dispensaries here in town where if he had, ended up there, he'd probably be a little bit better off. But this was the job opening that was available at the time for him to get into the industry. And it is a farm, which is 30 miles up the interstate from where we live. So now he is going to be driving one way to work 30 miles at a time when gas prices are going through the roof because we decided it was a good idea to start a completely unwarranted, unjustified, and unnecessary war with Iran. And I'm now sitting here thinking about my own situation, where my own currently hourly wage is, and considering if I was their age, if I was just starting out. So thinking about buying the same house that I live in right now at its current value, at current interest rates, with the same % down payment that I paid for this house back in 2017. And I realized that my payment would be double what it currently is. And I, as a 40-year-old woman who has been working for 24 years of my life, could not afford this place on my own. Like at 40 years old, I would need a roommate in order to live in this very modest, like 1,300 square foot, 1968 ranch style home. Like it's not a fancy house by any stretch. It's what most people would consider to be essentially a starter home by today's standards. And I could not afford it on my own on my current wages. So my question is, how the hell are we expecting these young kids to do it? Like for someone to start out, even in my area, in like rural Missouri, they would have to make $30 an hour in order to be earning a living wage, in order to live on their own and support themselves without the help of a spouse or a roommate, just for a single person to live and make it on their own, to be able to afford a vehicle payment, vehicle insurance, a mortgage or rent payment, and all of the utilities and groceries and cell phone bills and stuff that go along with just living your life. That's no fun stuff. It's just to live. They would need to make $30 an hour. Meanwhile, we have a government that is more interested in starting wars and harassing other countries and harassing immigrants that are living in this country than they are with their own people, than they are with helping the working class in any way, shape, or form with any kind of meaningful legislation or reform. We have a do-nothing Congress that is sitting on their hands and doing absolutely nothing to help any of the working class people. I'm mad about it for myself, but I'm even more mad about it for my children. Something needs to change. Something's got to give. And frankly, at the midterms, like, it would be great if the Democrats are able to take over, because at least they'll do something to stop the nonsense that is happening in the executive branch that is going on unchecked. But are they going to do anything to actually help the working class people? At the end of the day, even the Democrats are doing the absolute bare minimum to be able to claim that they are for the working class, because they, right along with the Republicans, are taking money from wealthy campaign donors, and any policy, any legislation that they pass ultimately is going to help them and not us. So where does this end? How far does this go before we, the people, cannot afford to live no matter what age we are?
Do you think you'll ever be able to afford a home? I know many of us get sick when we look at the current prices of homes. And the worst part is it's not getting any better. Home prices continue to rise each year, and you wonder why many of them sit on the market for months. No one can afford these houses. If you wait until your 40s to buy a home and it takes you 30 years to pay it off, that's essentially your whole life. Let's discuss in the comments what y'all currently think about the housing market and the cost of living. And thank you for watching.